Colin Mitchell. Welcome to the open mic. I was wondering if you would like to take the stage with some poetry first off the bat. Would that be okay?
Oh well, it was a bit of a surprise, but I've got it here.
Great.
Like I said, one of them is quite long, but it's the tale of a piece of nature. There's a mixture of stuff tonight, some serious stuff, some reflective stuff, a story, and some observations. Hopefully to finish with something a little bit humorous. The first one is simply called The Loving Man. I was on the top deck of a bus going past a graveyard, and I saw someone kneeling at the graveside, and this came to me on the bus on the way back home. An old man kneeling in the snow, his face so streaked with tears, his daily visit to this spot has run for many years. For here he feels at one with her who decades long since past had won his young and foolish heart and made it race so fast. Through rain and gale and sunshine too, his journey brings him hence, and daily as he meets with her, his love grows more intense. He talks to her and smiles whene'er his mind remembers times of happiness he'd never thought that he would someday find. He still recalls their marriage vows on the best day of his life, when this young woman he adored became his loving wife. The home they'd made, the things they'd done, the children they had raised, those memories of years gone by are on his brain emblazed. But now, beneath the falling snow and in the bitter cold, he once more kneels at peace with her, although he feels so old. He reaches out once more to touch and trace her name upon the stone. He sighs a final breath, and from this world is gone. A little bit lighter. We've all been hearing an awful lot from David Attenborough and everybody else about the plight of nature. This is my little take on what we might want to think about. It's called What for Us. What would we do if not for bees, who have no time to shoot the breeze, who all day pollinate the crops, the apple flowers, the sweet corn tops, and grasses too, to feed our beasts, which we all need if we're to feast, or use their milk to make our cheese? What would we do if not for bees? What would we do if not for bees and other insects just like these? No grapes would form upon the vine, we'd nothing have to turn to wine. Legumes would flower, no fruit to bear, and as for apricot and pear, no fruit would grow upon the trees. What would we do if not for bees? What would we do if not for bees? We'd have a world down on its knees, no crops to eat, no beasts to feed. Now is the time to take the lead. Why must we use insecticides which poison little bees' insides? Are we not our worst enemies? What would we do if not for bees? I will apologise for this one. It is a little bit lengthy. If it means I'm cutting my time, Chris, just let me know. This was a little venture. It's a story of something that happened in my house, and it's called The Field Mouse. A glimpse it was, and nothing more, until I turned my head. A Wednesday evening, late it was, as I prepared for bed. A sneaky little field mouse was in my living room, and I would try to catch the thing, not send it to its doom. And so at 10 o'clock at night, I started on my quest. Until this little blighter's coat, I'll not get any rest. My teeming brain suggests to me a bowl turned upside down. I fetched the wash-up basin then, came back without a sound. And all this time, the little sod just sat there watching me. No attempt to move at all, as brazen as can be. To get it out from where it sat among the plugs and cables, thinking he was master here. Oh yes, I'd turn the tables. The washhand basin's far too big, and even if I did manage to drop it over him, was he within it hid? I wouldn't know unless I raised the side a little bit, and if he had been trapped in there, he'd have the chance to flit off to a distant corner where he'd laugh until he cried. So I chased after this wee shite. Can't say I never tried. A milk bottle was next to use, an empty one, of course. I didn't want to kill the thing and fill up with remorse. I simply had to trap him in safe and friendly way, then I could turf him out my house to live another day. Some of my finest porridge oats would coax the mouse inside, not knowing that I'd oiled the glass around the neck so wide. I laid the bottle on its side against the skirting board. When I came back from the kitchen, the sight just had me floored. The little bugger sat inside, as if out for a meal, then saw me coming across the floor and turned upon its heel. I saw his little paws as they were slipping on the glass. I knew that he could not escape, that my plan had class. Before I reached the bottle, though, he went back to the base. He had his own wee master plan. To the top he turned his face. He hunkered down on his back legs, eyes gleaming in their sockets, then launched himself to freedom like a great Apollo rocket. I swear he poked his tongue at me as he flashed past my hand and vanished neath the unit where my TV had its stand. Now vanish is the word to use, for he had disappeared. There's not a single trace of him, and this is what I'd feared. I'd no idea of where he'd gone, but all the doors were closed. He had to be in here somewhere and watching, I supposed. But though I hunted for an hour and poked at every nook, I had to give up for the night and let him off the hook. The next day I had time to think of how to win this fight. My wife had gone down to the shop to help me in my plight, returned with mouse traps 1 and 2. She said, he's had his chance. I've been awake all through the night. He's led us on a dance. And so reluctantly I set the 2 traps on the floor. But as the day wore on and on, there's no sign anymore. We hadn't had another glimpse of this little creature. Had he really left the house? Would he later feature? With all 3 traps now prepped and set, we went about our day, ensuring that we closed the doors to keep escape at bay. The darkness fell with still no sign of this wee tawny fiend. Had COVID-19 laid him low? Had he been quarantined? But as my wife went up to bed, guess who should reappear? And when he saw me look his way, I swear he had a sneer. I watched him when he spied the traps and cautiously approached the bottle trap and sniffed inside, this dome to be encroached. The oats he'd snatch and flee the scene, but then something went wrong. My master plan was left in shreds, this chase he would prolong. Oh yes, he poked his head within, but back feet left outside, to make a speedy getaway, and all my thoughts deride. Thus thwarted, no option had I, except to sit and wait. I would not leave the room that night till he had seized the bait. There are 2 lethal traps to go, though it would break my heart to kill the poor wee field mouse and let his soul depart. I had another box to use with a clear view within, and if he crept under the edge, I'd catch him and I'd win. I had it propped against the foot of where he used to hide, the only thing I needed now, for him to crawl inside. But no, he'd have a second look at seed within the jaws of one of these new traps I'd set, and nudged it with his paws. I know these traps are meant to be for house mice and the like. Imagine my astonishment when it seemed not to strike. Now field mice are small, that's true, and don't weigh very much. This one's so light it wouldn't set the trap off with its touch. It crawled all over the spring frame and sat upon the tray and ate up all the seed there was, having a high old day. They wandered off to the second trap, devoured all that seed. I stood there open-mouthed and stared while he had such a feed. There's just so much a mouse can eat, and soon he's off again. Behind the bookcase, as I'd hoped, his cosy little den. He poked his nose around the side. The plastic box now stood to bar the way for his escape. This was looking good. He crawled inside and looked around just a few inches more. Obligingly, he forward crept across the deep-piled floor. One swift move, I dropped the box and had him trapped inside. It might be such a little thing, but my smile's a mile wide. I slid it through the living room floor, across the kitchen, through the living room, across the kitchen floor, but found a problem when I reached the last bit, the back door. Outside, it was a 9-inch drop. a gap too big for me to certain be of keeping mouse secure, not running free. I placed some hardboard underneath, and then the box I flipped, while holding both together, make sure it hadn't slipped. Thus carrying the lot outside, I set poor Mousie free. 'Twas 3 o'clock in the morning. I was at last carefree. I apologize if that was a bit long.
No, that was great. Well done. Thank you very much, Colin. Colin, you messaged me to say that you had written a poem about Taylor Swift while we were in action. Would you like to read it now? Because I'm sure we're all very keen to hear it.
Right, okay. I didn't realize that.
If that's cool.
Sorry, I was downstairs running it past the boss and getting myself a coffee. It's a bit rough and ready, but you maybe get the gist of it. Oh, lawsuit. We've made a blunder, and now we wonder why there's a rift with Taylor Swift. There's lawyers' letters claiming she's better than us mere folks with songs and jokes. A ban she's placed with face straight-laced. On using her song, she says that it's wrong. We'll counterclaim, our only aim to clear our name from girl with fame. She'd shed a tear if she were here and listened to the facts. She'd soon remove the axe. She wielded high at you and I in crazed attempt and to exempt us from playing tunes. She's saying, whoa, just stop. They are the tops. These guys are great. I'll fix a date for my next tour. We'll take the floor. Together we'll fly higher when I sing at the Saltire.
Oh, man. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Way better than the joke that we had about her. That was...
Brilliant,
Thank you.
Colin.
It's a bit rough and ready, but
No. I really liked it.
your plight struck a chord with me.
The injustice.
The injustice of it all.
Yes. Stupid girl. Oh. Oh, I was muted.
Hopefully she's not in the room at the moment.
No, she just left actually.
She's in the waiting room, you know. You can let her in. Hi, Taylor.
Billy's back.
She'll be writing another letter.